Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Got it. We're now recording.
Let's mute.
Yeah, the best if you mute yourselves, and if you've got any questions, just unmute. Please feel free. Ex-teacher, I'm used to having questions thrown at me or stuff, or even just people asking stuff and saying stuff, you know, and giving advice and things. That's absolutely great. The only problem with these ones is, and I'm saying to Derek, I've got a new camera system that I'm going to be putting into play for my Friday night sessions, but also any of these. I'm just missing a cable, so I can't use it tonight, because otherwise we'd be focused right into the fly tonight in 4K Ultra HD. So that'll be coming. But we're going to start off. I've got this little fly here, which is very simple, very straightforward, and it's a little shrimp pattern, and it's one. I like shrimps. I fished the itching and the test and the meon, and the one thing I'm always amazed about is the number of gammarus that we find in our watercourses down here, you know, they're in the hundreds of thousands in any sample, and it's a very simple pattern, and it's one that I use frequently, and I catch quite a few fish on it, and it's also deadly for the grayling in the colder months. So it's just a simple size 12 check nymph hook, pulling mill. There we go. And on that, as long as I can find it, and on that I'm going to put a lead underbody, because I want to give it some weight to get down. I'm going to use some rolled lead rather than flat. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put 8 turns into the center and just tighten that up, and then add 10, 11, just leaving a bit of space at the front and at the back. And then there we go. So I won't be able to find. I tidied up, so I won't be able to find anything. Yeah, done. And I'm just gonna pinch those ends of the bits of lead in, like so. And I'm going to use, instead of normal tying thread, I'm going to use some olive floss for this, because I want it to cover the lead in the bare minimum number of turns that I can, without having to go over and back and forth multiple times. It's always useful, isn't it, to just turn it anti-clockwise, just to flatten it out as well, gets rid of all those lumps and bumps. And I'm not going to be too worried if I miss a little bit of lead. These aren't for show. These are for fish. These are to be fished. So I'm just going to take my time, give it a spin. And it isn't just that I use these to fish with. I like tying them as well. I like tying shrimp patterns. And I'm just going to cut off there. Now the legs on this, very simple. I'm just going to use some ostrich or some emu if you've got some. If you're going up to the BFFI, look out for some decent ostrich, because this is where you'll get a chance, as you all know. You know, I'm teaching to the converted here to open packets and look at them and have a look, because I've bought some ostrich before now online, and I've got it, and literally I really wish I hadn't bought it at all. I'm looking for long strands where I can get more than one fly out of that, and I'm looking at how long the little barbules are, because if I'm going to form legs on those, I want them quite long. And I'm going to bring that in, and I'm just going to trap that in, and then take my tying thread, my floss, back down, trying to keep the ostrich. There we go. Trying to keep the ostrich on the side, and I'm just looking to make sure that I haven't got too many unsightly steps, because the thing with floss is that when it flattens out, it will have a tendency to slip on itself. And just tighten that up there, pull that bit off, tidy it up towards the front. There we go. Now, I'm just going to put a little whip finish in there just to hold it. And I'm going to take my ostrich and I'm going to wind it up, palmering, if you will. And you can adjust the segmentation to however you like. I like them quite wide. I want the olive to really show through. Obviously, if you use pink floss, you've got a great pink version for grading. But in my experience, the grading, when they're feeding, when you find them, they feed. And they will just take absolutely most things. Bring it up towards the eye, tie it off. Minimum number of turns because I want to reduce bulk. Just going to trim that off. So I've got enough there to make another fly. So that goes in my little tray here, which I delve into from now and then to go and grab stuff. And then I'm just going to tidy up this front end and bring my thread back. Couple of whip finish turns. Tighten that up. And I'm just going to, with the tip of my scissors, just push. There we go. Now, you could leave it like that, I suppose. Now I'm going to wet my finger and forefinger on my thumb, and I'm just going to evenly push down and get all of those little bits. You're going to get the odd errant piece. Oh, it's even worse as it's now come undone. I just pulled that a little bit too tight. See, it happens to us all. So I'm going to stick that there, but I'm actually, to correct that, I'm just going to swap to a little bit of nano silk. So I'll find if I put more floss on there, it'll just be too bulky. Trim that off. Trim that off. There we go. Let's redo that bit. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Should really use scalpel on the nano silk because it dulls your scissors. Right, let's get back to this bit. There we go. So we're in like that. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in and I'm just going to put onto that front a couple of little black dots. Sort of the head of a, because it could mimic a caseless caddis or even a caddis, paste caddis. So we can use it as a multi-use. There we go. Fly. And then I'm going to come in with some good old resin. So this is Golf Classic. And I'm going to use one of these, which is, I'm reliably informed, is an eyelash wand. Go figure. No idea. But discovered them and realized that they're really good for applying resins really neatly and controlling. So I'm going to put a layer of resin on the top.
You can buy them little sticks on eBay to touch your paintwork up on your car.
Yeah, exactly. These were literally, and I've used quite a few. You get them in these packs like that.
Yeah, that's it.
And it was like £3.
Yeah, we
It-
touch
it's
them.
coming-
We mix a
Sorry,
bit
Lee.
of paint and touch your stone chips up.
Yeah, and they're great for this, for resin and all sorts of stuff. So, you know, I'm also partial to using a needle to do it as well. And I like to tip my vise upside down, put the first layer on, and you could just leave it at one layer. But I like to layer up and that on top.
You haven't put the wrong end in your mouth, have you?
You'll soon find out if I stop talking, which is a hard thing to do for a Welshman, actually.
Mark, you said on the previous video what they were called for, what those sticks were called, and to look on eBay, but I've forgotten what you said they were called. To look.
They're eyelash ones, ultimately. I'll find the link again and post it up.
I buy them as car paint sticks.
Yeah. I'm sure if we all did a quick search, we'd probably find them labeled up as all sorts of stuff, wouldn't we?
Cheers, man.
I'll bring you some, Tony.
Thank you, sir. The
You have to-
BFFI.
You have to pay for them, though. Sorry.
Oh, after all.
It's worth watching and obviously worth watching the pro tires on Tires Row, because you can pick up all sorts of little tricks, not just with the tying, but some of the stuff that they're using, and the ultimately, you know, just sort of household everyday items, and just make tying that much easier.
Are you on Fly Ties Row this time, Mark?
I'm not. I can't go.
Oh, dear.
I'm not. I was saying to Derek, I had COVID over Christmas.
Yes, yes.
You know, I managed to dodge it for 3.5 years being a teacher in schools, or whatever it was, 3 years, and got it working on my own at home. It's crazy. Hadn't actually been anywhere. Don't know where I got it from. It's not nice, is it, for those of us that have had it at all? But it meant that Christmas was a bit of a washout for us. So we had to cancel all our plans. So we're heading off to wildest Pembrokeshire for a few days, starting on Saturday. Now, of course, you know, I'm playing around with resin because I just like playing around with resin, really. But, you know, you could use a shell back on this sort of thing. You could do whatever. But I do like using, there's a golf product called motor oil. I don't know if you've come across it, which is quite a viscous and thick resin, but it's the color of motor oil. And it's really quite, it gives a really nice effect, particularly on shellbacks and thorax covers on nymphs. I'm just going to use it just to build this top section here. And it just gives it almost like a dirty, as if it's been in the river for a while. Not that I think it makes any difference. It's more of something for me, really. But the fish seem to like it.
It looks like a shell, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, what I would do is ultimately, if I was making a lot of these, I'd make up or make them all up and do all the resining. Is that it? Do all the resin work on them later on. I'd have them lined up. Just is quicker that way. And there we have it. It's our first fly of the evening, one from a box. I'll go down to a size, well, I've got them in a size 24 in my box for really, really, really spooky grading in some of the feeder streams coming off the itching. A little bit of Sally Hansen across the top. And there we go. I will, of course, take photos of these guys and put them up.
What colour is the ostrich, Mark?
I put white on this.
Right.
But to be fair, Peter, you could use any color you liked. I was umming and ahhing. I was going to put some pink on it. Tan works really well. Because
That's-
in the water, a tan color. In the
oh,
water,
tan.
it becomes quite translucent anyway. And it's just the effect that I'm looking for, the wiggle of it, I suppose. You know, I was talking to a mate today. Some of you might know Kieran Nason, and we were talking about how feather colours change in water, because I've been dyeing up lots of partridge over the last week or so, and various other things, and it's quite interesting how you have it in one colour and it's dry, and then as soon as you get it wet, it changes completely. Next fly I'm going to tie. Going to get a bit adventurous now. I'm going to tie a Wally wing Mayfly emmerger. Okay, and it's one that I tie on a clinkhammer hook. So this is a Partridge 15 BMY barbless size 12 hook, and I'm going to use some copper colored nano silk, which is my current absolute favorite colored tying thread at the moment. I've used it on everything that I can think of at the moment. It's a bit, I like tying this fly because it's got lots of technical elements in it, as well as some basic techniques. And if you tune in on Fly Fishing UK, Still Waters and Rivers on a Friday night, I'm always talking about how technique trumps pattern. So if you practice the techniques and you've got the techniques, you can tie most things really. And I was always brought up when I was tying as a kid that once you've tied a pattern, don't think that you've perfected it. Keep tying that same pattern over and over and over again. You might have a lot of them, but that's how you start to perfect your pattern. I'm just going to adjust the hook, and then I'm going to, now I've got this patch of moose mane. I only ever use this for hailing, and occasionally I use it for a rib. So that's going to last me longer than probably I'm going to be around, I would have thought, unless I start tying prodigious numbers of mayflies. And I'm just going to take, can't see that in the light, I'm just going to take 3 of the longer pieces of moose mane. Now it's different to body hair. And I've got a loose little one there, just put that one down. And there we have it. So I've got my 3. We try and make the middle one slightly shorter than the 2 on the outside. And I'm going to judge it. I want, as we know, mayfly have got pretty long tails, so I want it about the length of the body, plus a little bit. And I'm going to pinch wrap, hold it in place, put a second lock-in turn in, just have a look. Yeah, happy with that. Then I'm going to take it initially back down towards the tail, like that, and it splays out. Now you could put a turn underneath that will push it out. I tend not to bother. And then I'm just going to bring my tying thread back up, and I'm looking to make quite an even underbody. Again, no unsightly lumps and bumps. So I'm just going to trap it down on the top and leave about 1/4 of the hook shank towards the eye there. And then I'm just going to nip that off and then come back and just tidy up. There, right. So, what have I done with that? Bear with me. Oh no, it's in here. I've been tidying up today, so I've got a bucket full of all of the stuff I've been using, ready to put away in the drawers. So, partridge skins. Again, BFFI. Look out for good partridge skins, particularly English partridge. Really hard to get hold of. You're looking for lots of useful feathers at this end, although these wing feathers and also the coverts and the secondaries and are really useful as well. You can see this one's taking a battering. There you go. There are sort of lots of dodgy partridge skins out and about, and because of, I was talking to my gamekeeper friends, but because of bird flu, it's been very difficult to import them. And you know, and be able to get good partridge. Plenty of Spanish partridge, French or red legs, but very few English this year. So I'm going to take quite a dark brown feather. I took this from just at the edge of the wing towards the back, and I'm looking for I want these barbules here to be really long, so that's what I'm going to form my Wally wing out of. Now to do that, if you've bought Bug Bond, you might have got some of these little tips to go on the Bug Bond bottle. And I never used them, and I thought, well, I was going to throw them out. And then I realized that if I take them and I cut the tips off at I can have different diameter tubes, and I can actually use them to make my Wally wings with. So I'm just going to take the tip of my feather and pull it all back. I can leave quite a long tip, so I've got plenty of feather there that I can use. Give it a lick, get it all tight, push it into my tube, and it comes out like that. Hopefully you can see that. And then what I do is I'm looking, don't want it too tall, even though Mayfly have got big wings, because purely I'm looking for shape and silhouette. But at the end of the day, if you have them too big, they're going to spin your leader. And ideally, this fly is for short casting, not for long casts out across the river for targeting fish. And I'm just going to place it on the top. And what this Bug Bond nozzle does is it allows me to have an opportunity to position my fingers in the right place. I'm just going to put 1 turn, 2 turns, and I'm not pulling down. So thread control is really important here. And then I'm just going to take off the tube. I'm just going to allow the bobbin, the mass of the bobbin to pull down. And you can see I've got the start of it there. And now I'm going to tie it down. And the benefit of using the nano silk is that it doesn't produce a lot of bulk. And then I'm going to come in 45 degrees and nip that off there. And then just tidy up across there. And just take out some of these segments like that. So far, so good. Next, I'm going to put, just reach up. Next, I'm going to put a rib in. And for this, the segmentation, I want it to be quite dark, brownish. Down here, we get the very Danica coloured mayflies. So I'm going to use some of this Purcell's Marabou floss. And I like this because it's multi-stranded. And if you just give it a little twizzle against the direction that it's twisted, you'll see that it's made up of lots of different strands. And I think there's 6 strands. And I'm going to split it 3 and 3. I think I got 4 there. Let's just get rid of that one. There we go. There you go. And the smaller the fly, you can split it again down to 2 and down to 1 for a different rib, different size rib. And then I'm going to offer it up onto the side, draw it back, and tie it down so that it's along the side of the body itself. I'm going to take it all the way back up and just tidy up so that at this end I'm sort of tapering as much as I can, so there's no steps. There's a little one there, but we're going to hide that under the body. Okay. Right. Just looking for what I did with my dubbing. There it is. So for the body, I'm going to use Semperfly K-pop dubbing, and I'm going to use this for a number of reasons. Number one, because I've got tons of it, and number two, when I dub it on, it allows me to form quite a tight dubbing rope. Now, normally with K-pop, I always find that I want to dub it in a split thread or in a dubbing loop. Because of the nature of it, it works best when it isn't compact in terms of its floating abilities. But in this case, I actually want it to be quite compact for the body. And it's very fine. It's almost like a super fine dubbing. So I'm going to take it out. There it is. This is cream. You can see that when it's, there it is. It just floats everywhere. And in fact, you find it everywhere. It's the same stuff they put in life jackets. And it's a natural material. And it's really quite useful, doing lots of colours. I'm just going to dub it on. And just push it up. There we go. So an equal thickness all the way along. I'm not pressing too hard. It doesn't need much to compress it. There we go. And then I'm just going to put a couple of turns at the base there. And then use that to anchor it so that I can twist again. And then I'm going to take it up the body to just at the point at which I nipped off the waist from the Wally wing. There we have it.
Sound's gone again. No, still can't hear you, Mark.
No.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, my because my mic's in the headphones. For some reason, it lost my headphones in. So I apologise for that. So I'm just gonna take it back about 3/4. So I'm making a tapered body, and then I'm just going to take it all the way back up and just finish. There we go. And now I can take my rib. I'm going to twist the material together, and I'm just going to put the first 2 at the base, quite close together. Because if you look at the mayfly abdomens, that's what happens, and then make it just slightly wider as we move up. We get about 5 turns in there. I'm going to lock that off. Oh, and just nip that out. We'll sort the body out in a minute. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my wing back. I'm going to use the flat part of my scissors to just push against the stem as if you were folding a piece of paper to get it to stand upright. And then I'm just going to put a little dam of thread just behind it to keep it in that position. There we go. So far, so good. Now, for the, I'm going to put a hackle on, and for that, I'm going to use this whiting high and dry hackle in a dun, very light dun. It's a lovely saddle hackle. So, with it being a saddle, it's a lot softer than a neck. But these are great. They're just so uniform all the way along. You know, that's what you get about 6, 7 flies out of that. So what I'm going to do is just tease the end, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to just cut the barbules to make a little comb. Now what that does is when I offer it up to the hook, I can trap my tie-in thread between those little comb teeth, and it reduces the chance of pulling it out if I just get a little bit heavy-handed. And I'm just going to find that end piece there, trim it off, and bring my tie-in thread down towards the eye. Now you could half hitch that there, or put a whip finish in. I'm going to take my hackle, make sure it's going in the direction I want it. There we go. And I'm going to put 1, 2, 3 turns behind the wing, and then come in front of the wing and put 1, 2, 3, 4 turns. I could probably put in another one there, but don't need to really. 1, 2 turns to lock that off. And then what I'm going to do is draw all that back and build up a head. At the front, but at the same time, what that's doing is trapping down that last turn. There we have it. And then I'll come in. Ooh. 1, 2, 3. Whip finish. And I've got my nice hackle there. Now for the Wally wing, it's quite hard to show you on this. What I'm looking for is I've got this piece sticking up at the top here. I'm just going to tease out 3 barbules on the side. I've tried 2, I've tried 4, 3 seems to be the magic number. for some strange reason, I've got no idea why, 3 seems to be the magic number. What you need to do is pull those 3, but at the same time, pull the middle stem in the opposite direction and part one from the other. And it forms the start of the wing there. And then I'll reverse that and do it on the other side. 3 again. Pull from both directions all the way down. And then you're left with that stem sticking up. And I come in, I'm just going to slide the tip of my scissors down to its base and just push against it, and it'll ping off. Take a moment and just reposition. Now you can tie them as a spent wing as well. You could use them as an over wing on a sedge. You can do all sorts of things. But you get, I don't know if you can see that very well on our cameras here. You get this nice little wing there. Now you've got these little tufts that stick off. Now often what I'll do is I'll leave those on so that when they're in my box, they're easy to pick up in the box, and then I'll nip them off or just pull them off at the on the riverside. But of course you don't want to leave them. I'm just going to nip that off. And you might lose the odd one on either side. 2, there we go. And then a little bit of clear Celir varnish. Little needle. Just stroke it across the head, making sure it doesn't soak into the hackle, just to secure it down, not getting it in the eye. There we go. And then the final little bit, which is optional, is just give it a little brush, make it look a bit more buggy. And draw it back. And there we have it. So Wally wing, Mayfly, emmerger, which, as we all know, when they're fixating on Mayfly, they'll really smack into those. Any questions about that, guys? Oh, I'm just gonna have a quick drink if you don't mind.
I like
No wine tonight, Mark.
Pardon?
No wine tonight.
Do you know what? Since I had COVID, I haven't drunk any alcohol.
Really?
I just haven't had it. I don't know whether or not I'm still suffering from a loss of taste.
Oh, okay.
But I just have. Not that I was a big drinker, by the way. Yeah. But I just haven't. So, just the way it is, which is great. Here we go. So I'll put that one over there with the other one. There we go. Right. Okay. Let me just do a quick little move around to a few things over here. Was the next one? Yes. No, wrong one. There we go. So the next fly is one that I use on the still waters down here, and we've got my favorite still water, which is Meon Springs. Has got a fantastic catch and release set of lakes, and where we can only use nymphs and dry flies. So I designed well, I didn't design, I stole lots of ideas and I put together a fly that looks like a damsel and in fact is a damsel, and ultimately isn't quite a lure, if you know what I mean. It actually passed muster with the fishery manager. He said, yeah, you can use that. So I'm going to use some nano silk again on this fulling mill nymph hook. It's got a long shank on it, which is what I want. And I'm going to put a layer of tie-in thread. There we go. Layer of tie-in thread just at the front by there. Because what I'm actually going to do is nip that on.
A 10 or a 12, Mark?
This one is a 12. This one is a 12, but as we all know, lost what I wanted. Where's they gone? Oh, there they are. As we all know, hook sizing is all over the place anyway. So to the point where I went and bought myself a set of digital vernier calipers to compare different brands and stuff. And what's a 12 in this is more of a 10 in another, or who knows. So I tend to just stick with sort of one brand for one particular type of fly these days. Right, so what I got here are some damsel eyes. So red damsel eyes with a bit of monofilament in it. Now I make my own. These ones I actually had from a packet that I was given. So I'm going to place it on the top in line with vertically with the no, sorry, not vertically, horizontally with the hook shank. And I'm just going to put one turn, and that will hopefully drag them round so that they sit in place. And then I'm going to use a series of figure of 8 turns to trap those down in place. Couple of turns in front, couple of turns behind, and just build those up. Lock them in place. Can put super glue on that. I'm not going to do that. I find it gets in the way of the dubbing I'm going to put there later. Plus, also, I've said it already, I will stick myself to it, and then God knows what's going to happen. But that'll stay in place, and we'll finish securing that in a bit. Then I'm going to run my tie-in thread down the hook shank so it's in line with where the barb would be on this barbless hook. And then I'm going to grab right, I was going to grab. There he is. He's hiding. Pheasant tail, beautifully dyed green pheasant tail. And I'm going to take 8 or so pieces of pheasant tail. You know, if I was given a list and of materials that I could keep, and I could only keep sort of 1 or 2 of them, and one of them was pheasant tail, I would always keep pheasant tail. So I think it's so universally versatile. I'm going to use this for the tail. And the tail, I want it to be at least as long as the body, plus a little bit. And I'm just going to place that on to lock it in place. Nice tail on my damsel. And then I'm going to take my tie-in thread up the body, keeping everything positioned on the top. Okay. And now I'm going to put a rib in as he leans over to find. Okay, so I'm going to use a light gold Semperfly 0.1 mil wire for the rib, just to protect the body when it goes on. Wire cutters. Bring it over onto the other side. Slide it down so that it's the length of the body. Again, so I'm not producing any unsightly steps. And then I'm going to secure it in towards the base of the tail and take it back up to the middle again. And then I can just put that out of the way for the moment. And then I'm going to come back in with my green pheasant. Come from this end now. No, I'm not going to use 8 this time. I'm going to use a little bit less. So I'm going to go for 5 of these. I'm going to pull them out so that the tips are all aligned and just strip them off. One too many there. There we go. And again, do exactly the same. Position it along the side, drawing the tips back so I give myself a lot of that pheasant to wrap around. Back to the tail and back up again. Now you could add an underbody of flat lead as well, give it some mass. You could use a bead at the front if you like. I'm just going to wrap this. I quite like it as a lightweight nymph. I think we forget, I know I do, I think because we get so fixated on fishing a beaded nymph or a beaded fly that actually unweighted nymphs can be absolutely devastating. Just going to take that all the way up to the eyes, like so, and just tie that off. And then rib it in the opposite direction to the wind of the pheasant tail. Taking it up. Finish at the eyes. Goes into my little pot. Now I'm going to take some more pheasant. Again, about 5 or 6 for a thorax cover. And this time I'm going to tie the tips over the back with the main part over the eyes. And then I'm going to tie that off at the front. And that's one of the reasons I left that space. I'm going to come back. Now you can leave those little tips if you like. I'm just going to nip those off. Like that. Then I'm going to take some natural dubbing here. So I've got my good old Andrew Scruffy dubbing. And on this particular fly, I'm going to look for an olive. This is called Appleby Olive, one of my favorites. It's got lots of blue in it, which is fantastic. I'm just gonna offer that up to my thread. You can see that nano silk, you know, I know it's fine. I know it's narrow diameter, but you can dub onto it really well. I'm not using any wax either to do this. There we go. Put a couple of turns just behind. And then I'm going to figure of 8 it through the eyes. Just in like that. Take it back a little bit. Quick look. Starting to get a little bit buggy. Now, I put in the group that I was going to try and get these in. So I'm going to use these here. This is some, you remember my pheasant skin, and I said it had been mangled, or I'd taken a section of it and I dyed it in this beautiful kingfisher blue today. I'm going to take one of these beautiful feathers. Here it is. And I'm going to strip the flew off the bottom. Like so. I'm going to take the tip. I'm going to pull everything back. Now, I'm not going to make a Wally wing with this. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cut off that tip. So I make a V shape. And then I'm going to offer that up onto the top of the nymph and just push it down on either side. And I'm going to bring my tying thread up and across to hold it in place and then lock it. And normally I'd use an olive coloured partridge. So we're starting to get our legs there. Can lock that into place now. Just going to nip that off. Come back in with a little bit of dub. Slide that. Just hide that wrap like that. And then we've got thorax cover. I'm going to bring back across and trap that down once, twice into play. And it really makes the eyes push out because you brought all the dubbing back. And then I'll put a third one in actually. Put a third one in. Now I'm going to come in, I'm going to cut this, but I'm not going to cut it really in close because I want it to look like wing buds. So I'm going to bring my scissors down and I'm going to rest them on top and I'm going to cut at a 45-degree angle. There you go. And you can't see it very well on there, but they stick out and they look like future wing buds. And you don't have to do this bit, but I'm just going to add in another little bit of dubbing just to hide that. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to whip finish behind the bead eyes. Trim that off. And then I'm just gonna, there we go. And there we have it. An alternative damsel pattern, which is more of a natural than a great big blue flash damsel for chasing rainbows. is very, very effective. If you're on the river, or if you've got an edge and it's got a bit of weed sticking out, particularly in late spring, early summer, a line down, and cast your line down along the margin and let it sink, and then just strip back in little jerky strips. The small browns that will just come out and they'll nail it, and they're quite explosive. So that's another one that I like to have in my box, to make sure that I've got a fly for most occasions. I don't, trying to work out who I've got on the screen at the moment, but somebody's fallen asleep. Like being back in school. Yay. So that's a third. Right. Okay, let's just have a quick little look at what I've got floating around here. Right. Final, it's gonna be my final fly for tonight, folks. It's another mayfly. Looking to see if I've got the right hook there. I haven't. Bear with me. There you go. I'm back again. I got it. Got the wrong size. So I tied these for somebody last summer who was heading out to Ireland on Corrie, and it's a nice little mayfly pattern. Now this is tied on a Kamasan B170. This is a size 10. There you go. Now for this, I'm gonna use some fire orange thread. All will become.
Is that nano silk, Mark?
This isn't. No, this is UTC. This is UTC. So this is 70 denier fire orange. I like UTC because it lies flat as well, but you can also get bulk with it. Whereas with nano silk, you can't quite get that bulk. I use nano silk a lot on my dry flies. So I'm gonna make that nice underbody, flat underbody. And I'm going to take my tie-in thread all the way down, but I'm going to take it round the shank to make a tag. And then I'm just going to bring it all the way back up in line with the hook point. There we go. Now I said earlier that pheasant tail was one that I would ever want to be without. So green, now I'm going to go for this scarlet red. Okay. And I'm going to take a nice, 6 or so sections of that and offer it up. Nice long tail. So it's a loft style pattern more than anything. In it goes. I'm going to tie that on. Take my tie-in thread so it splays out. There we go. And then take my thread and just build up. The underbody. There we go. Ooh. Just tidy that up. Take it back down in line with the tip. And then got this turkey here. So I've got these biots, natural biots here. Strange story about this stuff is that I got chatting to somebody in a session a bit like this on a Friday night about 2 years ago, and he was in Halifax in Nova Scotia, and I mentioned that I couldn't get decent turkey, and it was turkey hunting season over in Halifax. So he messaged me and he said, "I'm going to hunt you a turkey," and I didn't think anything of it. And a couple of weeks later, and this parcel arrived from Canada, and literally it was a fully prepped whole turkey set of feathers. I got wings and tails and absolutely everything. I even got the beard and stuff. It was all properly done, and it just arrived. It was like, oh my god! So I tied him some flies and sent them all out for him to Nova Scotia. But it was like, how amazing our sport can be and our passion for fly tying. I'm going to use a biot here. And I'm not going to use, I don't want much of it, but they're quite fragile at times. So I'm just going to tie it in at the tip, bring it back, and I'm going to take the biot up to in line with the point of the hook. That's where I want to get to when I take my biot, making sure that it goes the right way. There we go. And in touching turns, I'm going to make these beautiful ridged segmentation. And no two sets are the same because you end up with different colorations on the, take that right to the end actually, with different coloration on the biot. Now you could use your hackle pliers. I'm so used to not using them. And I'm going to come back in and just hopefully trap that down. Just got my finger on there. There we go. That's better. I'm going to come in, trap that down. Take that up and then just trim off. Ooh. Any of the loose bit there. Got the back section there. Now, if you remember, had that light gold wire from earlier on. I'm going to need that again. So I bring that in, tie that down. Forget about it for the moment. I'm going to come back to my K-Pock and I'm going to go back to the cream. A little bit of dubbing. There we go. I'm going to dub up but leave plenty of space at the head. And then need a cock hackle. This is a whiting grade 1 light bar ginger. One of my favorite colors. I'm just going to look at an appropriate size feather. That'll do. Trim off that end bit. Go through the same process again. Cut my little ladder, my little steps. And tie that in just at the front and secure that down. Nip off a little section like that. And then what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put turn at the front, and then I'm going to palmer it back through the dubbing, because it gives me a barring and a segmentation as well as the flotation effect of the hackle. And back up, and then I'm going to use the wire to tie that down to give it a bit of strength as well, because I quite like it to last for quite a few fish. And bring that up and tie it off. I've left plenty of space at the front, and that's purposeful. I'll worry that off. Secure all that, then finish back at the hackle. There we go. And then French partridge. So I dyed this myself. So this is what was it? What was it? It was a light olive, I think. But it's a beautiful colour. You've got nice French partridge feather there. It's got depth of colour on it. When you're at the BFFI this week and you're looking at colours on feathers, take them out, hold them up to the light. Look at how well the dye's taken to the stem. If the stem's still very white and not changed colour, it hasn't been in the dye bath long enough. So it's not going to, it won't have the right colouring. I'm going to take the tip now, because French partridge and most game birds, they've got these really thick stalks. There's no point in tying it in that way. It's just too bulky. So we're going to tie it in at the tip onto the side and at the head. So put a turn in, 1, 2, and then put in a turn in just to push this back. And then what I like to do is just come in with my scissors and just nip off the tip, but not so it's flush, because that allows it to grip. So again, if I'm heavy-handed, I'm not going to pull it out. And now it's worth just spending a moment just drawing all these back. I want it to cloak the front. There we go. And the nice thing about French partridge is this piece of your stalk acts like a mini set of hackle pliers. And then I'm just going to bring 1, 2, pulling back all the time, 3, and finish at the top halfway through the 4th, and then drop my tying thread over that stalk twice. Just have a quick look at it. 1, 2 in front. And what I can do now is I can just trim that stem and pull, and any loose bits will come out with it. Get rid of those. Draw it all back. Put that nice little red or orange hotspot head on the front. So we've got the tag, and we've got 2, 3, 4. Here we go. Ooh. Scissors, scalpel. Here we go. Cilia varnish. If I can find my, oh, I've lost that. Get another one. I dip my dubbing needle in, just draw everything back. Come in. There we go. Like that. And then what I then like to do is take that piece of the end piece of the partridge and put it through the eye and use it as a brush just to clear any varnish out of the eye. Like that. There we go. And there we have it. A little French Partridge Mayfly pattern that, you know, is fundamentally what most of the Mayfly patterns are made up of. You know, swap out the pheasant tail and put in golden pheasant tippets. You know, you could do all sorts of stuff with it, and that floats like a cork. And on the itching last summer, even the grayling were coming up and hitting them. You know, would work on a still water as well. You know, nice little searching pattern. Quite satisfying to tie as well. It's got lots of elements to it that just make it really interesting to tie. And the segmentation on the body, as I said, I'll take some photos. Segmentation of the body just looks Mayfly-ish to me. Sink it and pull it through the water, and you know, it'll pulse as well. So there you have it. So that's my 4 flies for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed that. You're the quietest group I've ever come across.
That's because they're all on mute.
Oh.
As a school teacher, I wish I could have done that with the kids. Just stick them all on mute, you know. The best thing of teaching them online was you could actually physically do that.
Then it mutes us all.
Yeah, mute you all. So yeah, so hopefully lots of little techniques and things in there. You know, and just try stuff.
Very good.
Thanks again, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Very good.
Cheers, thanks.
Thank you, Mark.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Any questions? I'm in the group. Just throw them up, and I'll put some pictures up.
We'll
I'll
catch
probably
up with you tomorrow night.
Yeah, tomorrow night's buzzers. Lots of buzzers, because I'm really down on all my buzzers at the moment, because they in all that hot weather when I was doing a lot of coaching and guiding on the still waters, the one fly that was producing fish all the time were the buzzers, the suspender buzzers in particular, which we'll be looking at in a bit of detail tomorrow.
Great. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow, Mark.
Yeah. I might even have a glass of wine. I don't know.
I'll go on YouTube, Mark.
Yeah, they'll all be up on YouTube. So if you just go on YouTube, type Lost Lake Fly Club. I think I've got 30 videos up there at the moment. There's even individual tying videos of certain patterns. I just haven't had enough time to put more stuff up there at the moment. There's even, if you go on my website, lostlakefly.co.uk, there's a digital vault, and it's got the videos of the individual patterns with downloadable PDFs of how to tie them as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so feel free to, and I will be adding more up there. It's just they are quite time consuming. I know Peter's on here somewhere, and Peter's doing them for the Way Valley fly dressers at the moment, and they are so time consuming. It's unbelievable.
About 2 hours.
Yeah, and yours are very, very good, Peter. I got to say, reading through them, well done.
Thank you.
Well done,
Just
well done.
on the Mayfly.
Yeah.
Last year on Pittleworth Lake, a friend of mine was tying it, and the reason I was asking about orange partridge, he tied a bit of orange partridge in front of the green partridge.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And that knocked out fish every time.
Yeah, you probably saw on one of my. Let me grab a box. I tied on the Friday Night Fly Club my variant blue flash damsel, and that's got two French partridge hackles on it. It's got a kingfisher blue, and then in front of that, it's got this light olive, and I also tie it reverse the other way, and that blue just adds so much more to the whole thing. So yeah, it's about trying different things, Peter, to be fair. You know, I tie flies and I vary things, and I fish them and I never catch anything and I never tie them again. And there are other times where I'll tie something and it'll just be like electric. So the one on Saturday, although not quite this one, because I don't know what I've done with it, the one that caught all my fish and hit into fish on Saturday at Avington was the red and black version, but it had a red French partridge hackle at the front. And as soon as I put that in the water, you suddenly saw fish who were not chasing anything suddenly going, "What is that?" I don't think they'd ever seen anything like it before. And suddenly, you know, I brought home 2 rainbows of 6 pounds each, and I lost a massive brown that just hit it and just snapped me off. It was unbelievable. So yeah.
Always
Yeah.
worth giving them something different.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm sure you guys do too. You know, I change stuff up all the time. So when I'm on the side, if I haven't had anything hitting, you know, maximum 15 minutes, I'm going to change something. It could be position, it could be direction that I'm fishing, the depth I'm fishing, it could be the size of the fly. I'll generally go with color to start. So my blue flash damsel, I tie it in a white, in a red, in a black, in a blue. And you're suddenly trying to work out what colors they take. And then if they're not taking any of those, you go into the smaller nymphs. And to be fair, you can't go wrong with a good old pheasant tail or a gold ribbed hare's ear, in my opinion.
Thanks again, Mark.
That's okay. It's been a pleasure. It's been an
Thank you.
absolute pleasure. And
Thanks, Derek. Thanks, Mark.
that's
you.
okay.
Cheers,
That's
Mark.
okay.
Thank you. Cheers, Derek. See you
Thank you.
Saturday.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, enjoy the BFFI. I'm so gutted I can't be there, but you know, I'll have to speak to my wife.